Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're having a great day, and if you're not, hopefully today's episode will make you feel a little bit better, or maybe it'll just distract you from whatever you're thinking about. You needed a little bit of something in your life, maybe this will be it. But welcome to, we're still in September, right? I think so. Super happy that it's getting cold. I don't want to wish away the slightly warmer days, but like there's something about being able to wear a jumper that I'm just so excited about. I bought this gorgeous knitted jumper, like super thick knit jumper, and I tried to wear it yesterday, but it was just too warm. And you know when you're like, oh, I really want to wear you, you're so pretty, but I can't. It was one of those, like I was like, I would have sweated in that, which is a real downer, but it's fine. Do you know what I mean? It's fine. But I am happy that I can wear, like, you know, jumpers in my flat again. There's something about being able to wear like cozy clothes at home that just hits different. Like, I don't really want to be wearing shorts. I don't want to wear shorts. I want to wear comfy clothes. Do you know what I mean? It's almost time for hot chocolates. It's almost time for good autumn candles. I bought an autumn candle yesterday and I'm just obsessed with it. I haven't burnt it yet. It's going to be a tonight job, I think, because you know when you first get a candle, you want to like burn it for a long period of time rather than just like for an hour and it just doesn't sit right when it burns. Do you know what I mean? But anywho, today I wanted to talk about trusting your gut. Now, the reason why I kind of thought this would be quite a nice thing to talk about is because so many of us don't listen to our gut. So many of us forget that your gut instinct is actually so important. And over the years, especially maybe in the last couple of years, I've not listened to my gut many a time. And then when I've looked back, I'm like, my gut literally told me that he wasn't right, or I shouldn't have done that, or something wasn't right. It told me and I didn't listen to it. So I thought we could kind of have a conversation about it and chat about this whole idea of, you know, listening to your gut and understanding why you should listen to your gut and when you shouldn't listen to your gut. Now, there's so many occasions in life where we believe that we'll just ignore our gut, or we believe that our brain has a better thought process than our gut, or do you know what I mean? We kind of ignore it. We think, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to go this way. I don't want to listen to that, so I'm going to go this way and do this instead. So there's two sides of it, right? You've got the side that you should listen to your gut, and you've got the side where you shouldn't. Now, deciding on what you should listen to and what you shouldn't listen to is kind of hard. I feel like sometimes you can brush something off and not listen to your gut, but that would have been a time when you should have, and then a time when you do listen to your gut, it was a time that you shouldn't have. So it's a really difficult one to understand, but I think it's like the feeling that you get when your gut is telling you something, and I think that is when, you know, you can figure out what gut instinct is right and what gut instinct isn't so right. Everyone has their own little things that make them feel a certain type of way, and everyone's certain type of way is different. But if you don't know what gut instinct is, I've got a little bit of text that I'm going to read out, which explains essentially what a gut feeling is. And it is feelings that occur when the neurons in your gut meet the neurons in your brain. That's the feeling. So it's the gut communicates with the brain and says, hang on a minute, don't like this, maybe not a vibe, not really sure about this. And that's when you get that gut feeling. So it's basically, when you have that gut feeling, it's a conversation that your brain is having with your gut to say, take a step back, I'm not sure about this one. So it's not just your gut saying something, it's your brain too. It's like your subconscious brain is saying something like, hello, not sure about this, maybe you should rewind, maybe you should step back, like I don't think this is working, which is something I didn't quite realize. I don't know, you know when you feel like, oh, I've got that gut feeling, or I've got a feeling, it's something in your brain, it's something in your subconscious, it's something that's telling you, I'm not sure about this, or I don't think this is right, or something's happened in the past that's made me feel this way, and I don't know if this is the right thing for you. And it's weird, right? Because the gut feeling can be a different kind of situation. It can feel different in different situations. It can feel different when you're talking to certain people. The feeling can be different, right? I so many times have met someone and just been like, something's off, but it's not like a gut feeling where I'm like, no, really need to, like, I don't want this. It's like I don't know what it is. I don't know. There's something in me that says no. Something in me says this person isn't really a vibe. But then I don't really know what it is. I don't really follow through with it. I just kind of leave it. And then something happens. I'm like, I was right. But it's not something that's like too deep for me to care about. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're in like a work scenario, for example, and you're sat there with someone and you're like, something really weird about them. Something in me says I'm not sure. But you just kind of brush it off because you're like, it's not important to me to care enough to follow through with this gut feeling. It's just something I feel. And then 2 months, 3 months, a year down the line, you're like, oh, I knew there was something weird about that person. And it's just like, kind of like, it's not really affected you majorly, but it's just something you're like, I knew it. And that happens to me a lot. Like I often get that feeling. I'm like, something's not quite right with them. And you just kind of keep them at arm's length. You just don't say everything about your life to them. Or do you know what I mean? You have those feelings. And I think often you have those feelings and you just disregard them. But if it's in a situation where you don't really need to care whether that feeling's there or not, then you can brush it off. Because like in a work scenario, if it's not affecting you, then why would it make a difference? If you're in a work scenario and someone's acting a bit weird with you and you're like, something seems off here, and then, you know, they're not including you or they're picking you to do the crap jobs or whatever, then you kind of be like, okay, there's something's not quite right here. I need to figure out what I'm going to do from this and change this scenario if I can. But often if it's a situation where you don't really care about the person or you're not highly involved with that person, sometimes it can just be a bit like, I'm just going to leave it here, and then maybe it'll all come to fruition and you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, she is a bitch, I thought she was. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of scenario. But I think when it comes to trusting your gut, most of the times when you have that feeling, from my experience so far anyway, is with friendships, with relationships, with people you meet, with certain things, you just get that feeling. And I think that in the last few years where I've really paid attention to my own self-growth and working on myself and figuring out what I want and what I'm happy with and the people I want in my life, that gut feeling has really taken a really important part in like things that are going on in my life. And when I look back and some of the really shitty things that I dealt with in 2022, I'm like, oh, okay, there was so many signs. There were so many feelings I had. And there were so many things that sent me in that way of kind of, should I have trusted my gut or not? And sometimes I think you have to learn things yourself. So like you might not trust your gut, but then you learn something from that feeling of not trusting your gut. Do you know what I mean? So like if, I don't know, someone told you something about someone like, she's not, and you're like, well, I can't make that decision until I've met her and I know her. I can't, just trust what you're saying. How do I know that what you're saying is right? And then you meet the person, you get on with them, whatever. And then that happens and you're like, oh, okay. So you were right. But you can't judge someone. You can't make a decision on someone from someone else's opinion. You have to make that decision yourself. And often, sometimes you meet someone and it's really good for a while and you don't really have any bad gut feelings. You just think, oh yeah, we're getting on, it's great. And then something kicks in that makes you then have a bit of a weird feeling. Sometimes it takes a bit of time before you get that gut feeling like something's off. And that's okay, like that's very normal, because why wouldn't you get on with someone straight away? Like if you get on really well, like there's nothing, you wouldn't instantly be like, oh, something's off the minute you meet someone and you get on. So gut feelings can come whenever, something feels a bit off. And I've definitely learned that when something feels off or something doesn't feel right, listen to it. And it obviously it's different in different situations, but sometimes you'll have a feeling where you're like, oh, I don't know. When you have that, oh, I don't know feeling, that don't know feeling is pretty much a no. If you have a don't know feeling, you're like, oh, I don't know about this, it's a no. And I don't know how many times I have to tell myself this, but if it's a no, then move on and do something new. If you're not 100% yes, you got to move on. You got to do something new. You've got to end it, whatever it is. Because a don't know is essentially a no that you're disguising as a maybe yes. So if you're thinking, I don't know about this person, I'm not sure, don't then keep trying to make it a yes, because most likely it will be a no. You can't make yourself work on something that the other person doesn't want to work on. You can't force something. It has to just happen naturally. And, you'll have these moments where you think, I really want to give him a go. Like, he seems like a nice guy, let's say in a dating scenario. But if you're not getting that good vibe feeling and you're not getting like a 100% yes, you're wasting your time. If you're dating someone and you're thinking, I like him, but I'm not sure, don't keep going on dates with him. 9 times out of 10, it probably won't work out because you've got that feeling it's not working, it's awkward, it's whatever. Get yourself out there and date someone new, because when you have that feeling where you're not sure, you're just prolonging the time when you can meet someone new. You're just like extending this like time of wasting. That makes no sense, but you're wasting time until you eventually think, okay, yeah, I'm gonna listen to myself, and then you move on. So the gut feeling has such a prominent, what's the word? It's really important to listen to in the right scenarios. So let's talk about the feeling. So if you have that feeling, it can be different for everyone. As I mentioned before, everyone's feeling is different. So you might feel like a butterfly sensation. You might just feel something in you. When I get the gut feeling, I just feel a little bit like, I don't know, like something in me feels like, I don't know. There's no particular type of feeling, but a few feelings that you might get. So maybe you don't know what your gut feeling is, or maybe you are not sure if it's a gut feeling or not. There's a couple of different things. So these are a few things that could be a gut feeling. So you could get butterflies, sweaty palms. When you start to panic a little bit in certain situations, you might have those kind of symptoms of panic. Maybe your sweaty palms, maybe you just feel a little bit nauseous or something like that. You might have a sinking feeling, when your heart drops and it feels like it's going to fall out your bum. Like, that is a really kind of odd feeling for me when I get that. Like, I only ever really have that sinking heart feeling when you've maybe you stop talking to a guy and you really liked them, and then you meet them, you'll see them in real life and your heart drops because you're like, whoa, oh God. Or it's someone you don't like or someone you don't want to speak to and your heart drops. That is when I get that. But that to me isn't a gut feeling. That to me is just an uncomfortable feeling. But you might get that when you have a gut feeling. You might have a sudden sense of clarity. Something might just ping off in your brain and you're like, yes, oh my God, yes. This is quite a good one, actually. I think probably a lot of people might experience this. You're sat there, you have this feeling, and you might be like, oh my God, yeah, my gut's telling me this isn't right. But not everyone is going to have that instant sense of clarity. Sometimes it takes a few situations before you see that clarity, but I think sometimes it will be one little thing and you'll be like, no, I can't do this. And that might be that sense of clarity. You might have vivid dreams about something that's going on. That could be a gut feeling. And also increased heart rate. Heart rate is something that we often just think of as I love him, it's so exciting. But sometimes it can be maybe not. And I know I'm talking right now largely in a dating sense, but this could be with friendships, with work, with anything. There are so many feelings and moments we go through, whether that's buying something or whether that's starting a new job. You have a feeling for everything, but sometimes your gut will tell you it's not the time to do this. It's not the time to purchase this item. It's not the time to, say something at work. Or maybe it is the time to say something at work. It's It's so dependent on the situation. Now, there's a quote that I read in this article when I was looking at, the science behind your gut and listening to your gut. And I really found it quite interesting. So I'm going to read it out for you guys. Gut responses are in fact highly curated and developed from exposure to different stimuli and events. They're the result of a complex filing system within your brain with help of your gut, a library of unconscious memories and snippets that you have no recollection of attaining. So when you have a gut feeling, that comes from something that's collected in your brain that you don't remember happening. You haven't thought about happening. It might have been something really, really small, but those collection of things have been stored in your brain. And so when you have something that doesn't feel right, or you're in a situation, your brain sends that to your gut, and your gut has a conversation with your brain. And it's like, look, these are all the things. It's almost like your receipts. So all of those things that are stored in your brain are like receipts. And it's like, here are all the receipts. This is why you shouldn't trust this person. This is why you need to get out of this situation. And your gut will send that feeling to you. And you'll be like, oh my God, this isn't right. But it's something to do with your brain. Your brain is storing all of these snippets, all of these little things that have gone on in your life that you're not going to remember, because it's very hard to remember everything that happens in your life. But it's slowly storing them up, and it's probably putting them into different folders. And then when you come across a situation where you're like, I don't know what to do in this situation, or something happens, your brain sends that to your gut sends a feeling, and you're like, oh. And like, that to me is a madness. I can't speak today. That to me is madness. Like, isn't that mad that your brain sends something to your gut to then make you feel a certain way, and your brain is essentially trying to protect you, just trying to make you feel a certain way, trying to make you feel like maybe this isn't the right situation for you. And it's all from subconscious little things that you haven't thought about, that have just been stored in your brain, ready for moments like this. That is madness to me. That is madness to me. Obviously, in your subconscious, you hold a lot of information that you don't think about on the daily, that you don't necessarily remember. That's very normal. We all know that. But it's so interesting that there's a little couple of folders in that brain of yours that are stored with these things that then send signals to your gut to be like, okay, we've been through this situation before. We've had something similar to this before, and I don't think this is right for you. Or I don't think this, from all of these little things that he's already done, I don't feel like this guy is right for you. Naturally, we often ignore the gut feeling. We ignore that feeling because we think, no, I'm just going to brush past this. But in my experience, if you're dating someone, let's start with a dating scenario. If you're dating someone and you get a feeling that you're a bit like, I'm not sure, it's an absolute no. And I've said this before, and I'm saying it again to remind myself before I get back into the dating scene, that if you don't know, it's a no. There's been a couple of times when I've been dating someone and I've been like, oh, something's not right. I remember I was dating this guy once, and I think, I don't know, we've maybe been on a couple of dates, and I remember texting my friend and being like, I'm not sure. And I kind of brushed past it. I thought maybe I'm just overthinking it. And then a couple months down the line, he ended up being an asshole. So I should have listened to myself. But then I think I was very fresh to like actually dating someone. So I feel like it was, maybe I didn't really have the experience. I didn't really know. I don't know. But at the time I was like, I brushed past it. And it's happened a few times when I've been on dates with guys where I've ignored it and I've been like, yeah, I'll go on another date. The second date, still I'm feeling that feeling. So now when I go into it, now that I'm fresh headed and I can go into it clear, when I get that feeling, if I'm not 100% yes, I'm getting out of there. There's been a guy I have dated where I had nothing bad to say. The whole first date was amazing. It's been my best first date that I've been on ever. I had a really good time. Like, it genuinely was one of those dates where I was like, this guy is just, this whole date is amazing. I'm having no bad thoughts. There was no weird gut feeling. It was 100% a yes. we're no longer dating. But at the time, it was 100% a yes. So for me, I had no even like weird thoughts. I knew it was a yes, right? It didn't work out, but I knew it was a yes. But compared to all of the other situations when I've been dating, I've not had that 100% yes. So this is why you should listen to the 100% yes, because I stopped dating that guy, but that was going really well until, you know, he had an issue. That's not my problem. But the other dating scenarios, there was things that were pissing me off. There were things that weren't working out. There were things that there were red flags that I ignored, right? So the same thing goes for friendships. If you've got a friend that you're feeling a bit weird about, or it's not sitting right with you, maybe it's causing you anxiety, maybe there's a lot going on, listen to that feeling you have. If you have that feeling to cut them out, cut them out. I had a friend who we got on really well, like we genuinely did get on really well, but it no longer was working. Our friendship wasn't working. We were clashing a lot. And I needed to take a step away from that. My gut feeling was, I don't want to end this friendship because I feel bad. Like I don't like to make anyone sad or anyone feel upset. But I was like, this friendship isn't serving me anymore. It's not working for me. I can't be having these arguments. I can't be having these situations. It's just not working. I think we basically grew apart. We weren't in the same part of life anymore as to when we met. And I took the step to be like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't working. And it was the best decision for me. Nothing against her, nothing wrong with her, but we just weren't working as friends anymore. So I took a step out of it, and that was a feeling I had, and I went with it, and it worked out. But I knew deep down, like I knew that it wasn't right. It wasn't going to continue. Like, too many things had happened that had made me feel like it wasn't going to work. So I ended the friendship. Now, obviously, there's so many different situations with friendships, with relationships, with buying something, with work, that you have that gut feeling, right? If you're purchasing something, there's a few rules you should live by, but don't buy something impulsively if you can't afford it, first of all. And if you're going to buy something, make sure you can buy it 3 times over, because then you can afford to buy it. But I think that when you get a gut feeling to buy something, or you get that gut feeling that you shouldn't do it, you should listen to it, especially in a buying sense, because it's very easy to spend money and buy something and buy a bag or buy a pair of shoes if you don't need it. If you get that gut feeling to be like, come on, no, then don't do it. Shoes, bags, accessories, etc. Things come about, but don't always trust your gut. There's scenarios you shouldn't trust your gut, and there's scenarios you should, right? So scenarios that you should trust your gut are with those situations with friends, with relationships, when you're getting a weird feeling, something's not sitting right with you. Those are times when maybe you should trust your gut, but it depends on the scenario, right? Sometimes you have to go through a couple of things before you then trust your gut. Sometimes it's an instant trust your gut. So if you're dating someone, sometimes I think it's worth giving a couple of dates, and if the second date's not it, then you end it. But also sometimes I think just end it after the first date if you're just not feeling it. With friends, sometimes it's important to maybe trial a few things before you end a friendship or before you trust your gut. But sometimes it might just be like a little bit of, I need to have this conversation, like a gut feeling, I need to have this conversation with her because this isn't sitting right with me. Maybe it's that. Obviously a gut feeling can be for anything. So any situation, any scenario. When it comes to really, really big things, this is when you shouldn't trust your gut. Now, you can have a gut feeling, but it's important not to just run with the gut feeling, especially when it's a really big thing. Like maybe it's choosing a job, taking a new job. Maybe it's buying a house. Maybe it's, I don't know, what's another big thing? Having a baby, something really big, right? It's important to, yes, you might have that gut feeling, and yes, you might be feeling something, but don't fully just go with the gut feeling, because when it's something really, really big and important, it's maybe a lot of money is involved, maybe it's something to do with your career. Sometimes your gut feeling will make you feel a little bit like, oh, I don't know about this, but it could be the best situation for you to do in that moment in time. For example, say you are wanting to get into a certain job role, but you know, in order to get there, you've got to do another job, but you go to apply for this job, you get it, and you're like, something's telling you, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't for me. But that job, you know that job will get you to the job that you want to get to after. So that's when you shouldn't trust your gut, because at that moment in time, you'll be like, oh, I don't think I want this. I don't want this. I don't think it's for me. But actually, that's a building block into the job that you actually want. So it's almost like you have to kind of force yourself to not listen to your gut and go into something that will help you in your future. So there's certain things that you have to disregard the gut feeling, because if it's something to build upon, that you know that you've got to do that thing to get there, or you've got to do this to do that, then it's kind of important to ignore the gut, because sometimes the gut will make you feel like it will send like alarms to you, like, I don't think this is right, you don't want to do this isn't for you. But sometimes those things are things you have to do in order to get to the next thing that you want to do. So I think big life decisions you've got to really think about before you even remotely attach your gut feeling to it, because big life decisions are important. If that's like moving across the world, if that's moving to a different city, moving into a flat, moving into a house, buying a house, all of these things are quite big life decisions. So it's not something you should go on your gut. But also sometimes it is good to go with your gut, because it sends you into an area that you would never have done if you didn't. For instance, when I moved to Amsterdam, when I lived there, I did that on a whim. I just did it. I didn't think about it too much and I just did it. But I was in a position, I was 24, I was in a position to just do that. I was in a position where I didn't need to worry, because I didn't have anything holding me back. I didn't have, I didn't rent a flat. I lived with my parents. I could literally get up and go. So I was in a really privileged position at that time. But it's different when you're a bit older, when you've got things, when you rent, or when you've got assets, maybe you've got a car, all of these things. There's so many different things that take a little bit more thought into before you even remotely trust your gut. But your gut does give you a feeling. So I do think it's important to listen to that feeling. When you have a feeling, you might get different types of feelings depending on situations. And sometimes, it will just make you be a bit more cautious. Maybe you'll just be like, maybe I'm going to do a bit more research. Maybe I'm going to think about this a bit more. Maybe I'm going to look into it a bit more. Maybe I'm going to suss this out before I fully decide. Maybe it will just send some sort of thought process to you that will make you feel a little bit like, okay, right, what are we going to do next? How are we going to deal with the situation? Because big life decisions should not be made from a gut feeling, because a gut feeling is just from, like I said earlier, from past things that you've collected. So if you're just going by that, you're not going by, because like most of the time, if you're buying a house, for example, you've probably not bought a house before, but it might just be things that you've collected from seeing people buying a house, seeing situations, and that might then send you a gut feeling that this isn't the right thing. But when you're buying a house, you might be looking at different houses and you'll see one, you'll be like, this is it. I know this is it. And you might go through loads that you're like, no. That is also a gut feeling. But in that situation, that's like, you look at the house, you think, yeah, I like this. And then you have that bit of logic. Is it in the right location, etc., etc., etc. So there's lots of elements to it. But there's always that feeling, and there are always moments to listen to that feeling within those big life decisions, but it's not fully trusting your gut on those big life decisions. But when it comes to relationships, when it comes to friendships, when it comes to buying something, all of those kind of things, trusting your gut is quite important. And I think it's important to listen to it, but you don't necessarily have to fully go for it and listen to it completely. It's up to you. But I do think it's important to pay attention to it, and pay attention to when you get that feeling, and pay attention to what it is that's giving you that feeling. Because I've not listened to my gut many times in the past, and when I look back, I think if I had only listened to it, I would have saved myself that heartache. I would have saved myself that situation. I would have avoided that. There's certain situations you can't avoid. there's absolutely certain situations you can't avoid. If you're living with someone, if you're working with someone, there's certain situations you cannot avoid, but the gut feeling can send you a little bit of a feeling to maybe not delve too much into that relationship. Sometimes it's important when you get that gut feeling, especially around one particular person, it's important to maybe not overshare too much and keep a lot of stuff in. I think certain people will listen. If you share a lot, they'll then take those things and use them for their benefit. So it's important to not overshare around the people that maybe you feel that weird gut feeling with, because those people are just sometimes not the best people. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, listen to your gut. It's important to listen to your gut, but also remember that sometimes you shouldn't listen to your gut, especially if it's a big decision, because sometimes we have to be adults and make decisions based on many different things rather than just listening to our gut, even though our gut does know a lot of information that we didn't really realize that it knows. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, make sure you're following my TikTok podcast. That made no sense. Oh my gosh. Make sure you're following the podcast TikTok and Instagram, which is It's Still Got Time podcast. My Instagram is I am Charlotte Olivia if you want to follow that. I also do vlogs on YouTube if you want to watch that. I am Charlotte Olivia. I'm really like, what's the word? Plugging myself here. Yeah, sorry about that. I feel like a lot of people, if you listen to the podcast, you might want to know more about me as a person, which obviously I share like a fair amount of bits and bobs of information on here. But if you want to know more about what I actually do or whatnot, then, you can find it on my social media, which is all there for you guys to enjoy, follow, send me a message. I'm always open for a chat. If you've got anything you'd like me to talk about, do send me a message. I will happily reply. If I don't get around to replying, please send me another message and I will reply. So yeah, remember, you've still got time to listen to your gut feeling. You've still got time to turn things around. You've still got time for your brain to understand that you need to listen to it, because it's taken me a while to work out that I need to listen to my gut. And I'm finally getting to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to be a big girl here and I need to listen to my gut. And when I listen to it in those certain situations, please listen to it. Don't disregard it, especially when it comes to dating. So if you're in a dating situation or you're dating and you're getting a bit of a weird feeling, it's probably your gut saying something. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to love you and leave you. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Do give the podcast a 5-star rating if you did enjoy, because that would really, really help me. So yeah, I'm going to love you all and leave you all. And I'll see you all next week. Bye.